The member for Fisher.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just say that there's a very important issue confronting the Sunshine Coast, and that is the need to upgrade the Bruce Highway from Caboolture to the Sunshine Coast itself to 6 lanes. The Howard government, following lobbying by me as the member for Fisher and other federal members, increased the Bruce Highway in size to 6 lanes as far as Caboolture, which removed the worst bottleneck between Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. But given the fact that we're one of the fastest growing areas in Australia, the failure to increase the width of the Bruce Highway to 6 lanes from Caboolture to the Sunshine Coast itself is having very great effects on the development of the Sunshine Coast and on the ability of people to travel to and from the capital, to and from the Sunshine Coast. What we really need is to have the Bruce Highway 6 lanes the entire way, because that means that people will be able to travel from the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane at a reasonable rate of speed and in a reasonable amount of time. There's a major need for widening the road to 6 lanes north from Caboolture to make the highway more efficient, safer and better able to do its job as a major transport corridor. The inefficiencies of the Bruce Highway have been a major problem for many years. Sometimes it takes an hour and a quarter to travel to Brisbane, and other occasions it takes up to 3 hours. And what we really need to do, as we are one of the fastest growing areas in the nation, is to have a situation where the Bruce Highway is upgraded to 3 lanes each way, because more and more people need to commute to and from Brisbane each day, and of course because the Sunshine Coast is one of the most desirable tourist destinations in Australia, people travel from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast, and 80% of our tourists actually travel by road from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast. That road is in high demand. That demand continues to grow, and the 4 lanes we have from Caboolture to the Sunshine Coast clearly are manifestly inadequate to meet the needs of today. It is really a situation now where it is rare for people to travel to or from the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane by car and not to have to deal with some sort of traffic disruption, whether it be general congestion due to high traffic volumes or a complete gridlock due to an accident. The need is now beyond a joke. It is of vital importance that something needs to be done about this infrastructure to relieve the frustrating, dangerous and economically damaging delays that now occur on a daily basis. I urge the government to continue to look closely and seriously at upgrading this road. We really have a situation where the Bruce Highway is the most important lifeline for road transport from Brisbane north to other parts of Queensland. It's the major link between the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane for thousands of commuters, truckies and tourists, retirees, and it is way overdue for further improvements, particularly the widening north of Caboolture. The crucial need for work has been dealt another blow due to the recent decision in late January by the Labor government to cut some $86 million from a planned upgrade of the section of the highway between Caboolture and Caloundra, with funds being diverted instead to help with vital flood repairs. Now, I certainly support flood repairs and certainly support those flood-affected communities, including the community at Conondale being assisted by the government, but it really is important to recognise that the upgrading of the Bruce Highway is not a voluntary, optional, airy-fairy project. It is something which, Mr Speaker, is entirely necessary. The government's funding cut of $86 million took $86 million out of a project which was worth $195 million, and I think that it's completely unnecessary, it's very unwise, it's retrograde, and I believe that the government ought to reconsider this matter, because it really is being penny wise and pounds foolish to deny vital infrastructure upgrades to the Sunshine Coast, which are really important as far as the development of this important area is concerned. I've written to the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport to highlight further the need to improve the Sunshine Coast on the Bruce Highway. It's important to improve the situation on the road, to increase the number of lanes from 4 to 6, and I ask the government to reconsider the retrograde decision which has recently been made to wind back the improvements and instead to accelerate them, because South East Queensland is rapidly growing and South East Queensland needs the Bruce Highway to be upgraded and upgraded now.